Hey guys, Andrew Shrout. I'm here with the sideboard. I'm here with Kent Ketter.
What's up, guys?
The one of the at-large participants in the Players' Championship. And we're here to talk about your Legacy deck.
Absolutely.
So you have played in literally every event except for one this entire year, every Legacy event, you have played Sultai Delver.
Yes.
So, to no one's surprise, you are showing up to this event with Reanimator.
Surprise!
Da, da, da.
Yeah, so in testing leading up to the event and my results at the Invitational last week, I was super happy with Sultai Delver.
Okay.
And everything was gravy. And then I realized that is 100% known quantity.
Sure.
And while Legacy, it is recommended you play what deck you feel most comfortable with, I have the benefit of working with the genius Joe Lissette.
Sure, okay.
So Joe and I were talking last week, doing our thing, and he brought up this Reanimator list.
Yep.
And we started talking about it, and I played a couple games, and my eyes have been opened up to this Legacy format where you get to play unfair things every single game. And so that's how we ended up here. As far as this first slide here, the Gristlebrand, the Elishnorn, and the Tidespout Tyrant, pretty standard. The main deck Elishnorn, it's just a concession to all your creature decks. Blue-Red Delver, I think, has 0 answers unless they're Vapor Snagging. Gristlebrand's the given.
Yep.
You put them in play, start draw 7, 14,
Yep.
21, wherever cards you want to get. The game's over pretty well from there. Tidespout Tyrant. This was one of the 2 targets that Joe had selected.
Yep.
To help deal with some of your combo and some of just your weirder matchups. He's very flexible. Typically, while you would like to have him be one of your early reanimation targets, he doesn't always just close the game out by himself. A lot of the times when I was playing, he ended up being the second guy I brought back because he helps protect your Gristlebrand and just ensure your combat steps are a little more fluid.
All right. 2 of the less traditional reanimation targets.
Yeah, so Sire of Insanity was it's just one of those cards that we were thinking about, what if Gristlebrand's not the correct answer because of Karakas, because of, post-board, they Pithing Needle Gristlebrand, that sort of thing. And we were, basically Joe had suggested Sire of Insanity. I'd played with the card in Standard and got to test a couple games with it, and your ability to, against the fairer decks even, or the combo decks, to go end of turn, put this in the graveyard, reanimate it, let's pitch our hands. There are quite a few decks in the format that when you get to that stage where you're going off the top and we have a 6-4, closes out the game. It's just really important as well against the combo decks.
Okay.
If they're comboing the same turn you are, this is disruption and a win condition all in one.
Gotcha. And then Sphinx of the Steel Winds, we're just gaming life, right?
Yeah, just an efficient tacker.
Okay.
It really just, it helps you line up well against burn. And Gristlebrand does it as well, but it's nice to have just another threat that also doesn't get bounced by Karakas or anything like that. So just a life-gaining, attacker.
All right. Entombs, of course, just the reanimation shell. Entomb put creatures in your graveyard, reanimate and exhume and animate dead, they get them back out.
Right, and the only thing to note is we chose the animate deads over the show and tells, and that's a concession to Containment Priest being a little bit more popular. Not that any of these cards are better against it, but show and tell itself just didn't really feel like that popular or that powerful, because if we're also the issue is against the actual show and tell decks.
Sure.
Card's not really that. I don't want to show and tell against the show and tell deck.
Right.
Animate Dead, on the other hand, it lets you execute things on the timeline that you want to, which is really important for one of the lands that we're playing in the deck.
Yeah, there's a little bit of spice tucked away at the
there's
end.
Something tucked away in the back that
little Joe Lissette magic
makes Animate Dead appear a lot more reasonable.
More quickly.
Yes.
One would say.
Oh yes.
So Careful Study. We see that in all Reanimator decks.
Super standard there.
Yeah, Force of Will, again. You're a blue Legacy deck. Firestorm. Now we're getting off the rails a little here.
This is a little bit off the rails.
First red card we've seen.
Yeah. If you think about it right now, one of the most popular decks is Young Pyromancer style decks. Also your Death and Taxes decks.
Sure.
Being able to deal 1 damage or 2 damage to all of their things is pretty valuable. It's another discard outlet. Sometimes you don't want to entomb for it. You've got it in your hand. It lets you pitch it into turn. Instant speed is really important. And as much as this is not the intent of the card, if you get Gristlebrand going, attack them for 2 combat steps, put them to, we'll assume, 5 or 6. It is not unrealistic, especially against like Death and Taxes, to go Firestorm for lethal, target you, me, a bunch of dorks, kill you.
You, me, my demon, your guy, thing.
Everything. We'll target everything and kill you.
Yeah.
So that's something that Firestorm does for you.
Okay.
But the most important part is it's just a sweeper.
Sure.
Nice to have it.
Yeah. Next up, we have basically just more cards that you're going to be playing if you're a Blue Legacy deck.
Daze Force Brainstorm. It's just, it gives me a little bit of comfort knowing I'm playing a completely different, deck than I'm used to. But Daze is super important in this deck because we are such an efficient combo deck that picking up a land, totally fine. We're okay with it. There have been a few games where in testing where it's, my main phase, cast Entomb, they attempt to counter, we Daze, bounce the land, it's the only land in hand, I know this is fantasy land, replay it, cast Reanimate, kill you. It's just really good. It puts the fear in people, and I'm a big fan of the fear.
All right. Brainstorm, Ponder.
Super standard.
We're finding our goodies. So the mana base, we see red duels, that's no surprise. We have Firestorms. We're going to see some fetch lands. And then we're going to raise our little eyebrows
This
here.
little guy.
Yeah. So this, I already talked to Joe. I know this is a deck that Joe designed.
Yep.
And he had a lot of things to say about Gemstone Caverns. So my question for you is what was it like to kind of come on board with this?
So I was someone that I've always been, I've been piloting the deck that's meant to prey on the combo decks.
Sure.
And one of the things that I had talked about was, when I'm playing the Sultai deck, I can usually pace the combo decks, down to the turn. Be like, I know you're going to do this and then that, so I have this turn to do that. Gemstone Cavern turns that whole thing on its head. I mean, I realize it's a known information, I can do the same thing, but them being up that turn completely throws off what a lot of decks are trying to do to lock you down.
Okay.
Being able to go, you put Gemstone in play, you slap your luck counter on it, on their upkeep, Entomb my guy. They can't Daze it. They have to have the force.
Right.
You get to untap into winning, Reanimate, Exhume, that sort of thing. And the Animate Dead. If I'm casting a 2-mana spell on my turn 1,
right,
makes perfect sense.
Sure.
It also is a free card where if you're on the play, now it should be known, we're not playing this card to just solely sit on it and go, I want to be on the draw. I want the card. It is there to just help you steal back the play. In a higher percentage of games than you would without it.
Okay.
It's one of the first cards we go to if we're on the play to sideboard out.
Yep.
Hopefully we're never on the play and we just win all of our matches and it's totally cool. But
just win all your game ones.
It's a super flexible card to bring out because it's like a wasteland in a sense. A lot of the Sultai decks, you're going to board out your wastelands, to try to get to a more, if the effect's not relevant.
Okay.
This kind of gives us the same ability, which is really important for someone like me who, I'm not the designer, I'm a pilot.
Yep.
So being able to have kind of an easy mode for sideboarding with a card like this, it makes it a lot easier to wrap my head around the concept.
Okay. All right. For Reanimator in particular, again, you've played Sultai Delver all year.
Sure.
What is it about this field, or is there anything about this field in particular that made you think that Reanimator was going to be a good choice or a better choice than Delver?
Sure. In testing, a lot of the Jeskai, Stoneblade, BBD Blade, Rudy Blade, whatever Blade decks hate this matchup.
Sure.
They might think they don't, but I know in game ones it's just disgusting. We feel very far ahead. It also felt like, with Joe, if Joe says the Miracle matchup is good, I'm going to believe Joe that the Miracles matchup is good.
Okay.
And if there were 2 decks that I wanted to go in this tournament prepared for in Legacy, it would be Jeskai Blade Thing and Miracles.
Sure.
So this fits both of those. And also with it being a fairly strong combo deck, using the resource such as the Graveyard, I feel like it's got that angle that you want right now.
Sure.
I know some decks are attacking the Graveyard because of Treasure Cruise, but they're usually doing that with cards like Nile Spellbomb. Unfortunately, Ross is showing up with Elves. Put money on it. I don't know. I'm pretty sure he's showing up with Elves.
Sure.
So Grafdigger's Cage is somewhat of a concern, but if that's their choice of hate as opposed to Deathrite Shamans, because besides Ross, I was the only person previously heavily advocating Deathrite Shaman.
Yep.
It just felt like we were positioned well against the given hate to execute this strategy.
Yeah, for sure. I love that you're talking about like specific players playing specific decks.
Yep.
Basically, everyone else that I've talked to all day has just said like, well, you can take it to the bank. Joe Lissette's going to show up with Miracles.
Yeah, and that was
you're basically the only person in the tournament other than Joe that actually knows that's not the case.
Yep. And it felt like if we could deviate from what people expected into something ridiculously powerful, I don't think anyone denies that Reanimator is powerful.
Sure.
Might be inconsistent, but it is powerful. And that felt like the appropriate way. If we're going to make a change, let's make a change and bring, the heavy guns. Don't make a change into something nuanced and trying to, like Death and Taxes, assess the metagame top to bottom.
Right.
Let's just blow the top off the whole thing and just go for the throat.
Yeah, just turn 1 Gristlebrand, people.
Hopefully. Turn 0 if we're super.
Even better, sure. All right, let's go over the sideboard really quickly. We didn't see any green lands in the main deck, but I have a suspicion they're in there somewhere. 4 Abrupt Decay to lead things off. Just kind of walk us through the cards in the sideboard.
So the Abrupt Decays, from my understanding, it makes sense they're there to beat the cages. That's the first step. But then against Death and Taxes in your Delver decks, blowing up Deathrite Shamans and all that in an uncounterable fashion is invaluable. I mean, it couldn't be better. This is exactly what I want to beat up pretty much all the hate available against us.
All right. 3 Thoughtseize.
Thoughtseize, blue permission decks, the decks that are going to try to fight you on the spell axis and also in the combo matchup. It's nice. And like I mentioned, how Gemstone Caverns gets boarded out. I'm okay with boarding in a 1-mana removal spell for the given combo matchup.
And then 2 Pithing Needle.
Caracas. It actually says name a Caracas, like in this text here.
Activate abilities of the named Caracas.
Yes.
And that's specify which Caracas?
It's just all of them. Just Caracases. I'm going to bring a sheet of paper with Caracas pre-written on it in my deck box and just slide that in there. It also answers a few other, obviously difficult cards, Deathrite Shaman, that sort of thing. And it's also nice against Miracles, just be able to slow them down a little. It's not a necessity necessarily in that matchup, but it's flexible. And as you've seen with these first 3 sideboard cards, flexibility is key.
For sure.
Our main deck is so powerful that we felt like we could concede a little bit of the Haymaker style sideboard cards.
Okay. And 1 Ratchet Bomb.
Death and Taxes, set it on 2. It's once again, it's flexible. It hits a lot of things. On 1, it blows up Cage. That was a card that I understood what it was trying to do, but having actually played with it, it performs above expectation every time. Also against Blue-Red Delver, blow up all your tokens. Oh, okay, you don't have tokens. Set it to 1. Pass.
Sure.
We'll wait.
All right. 1 Iona, an Entombable.
Yep. It's just the ability to upgrade, maybe the 4th Gristlebrand against Death and Taxes, or, just let you move it around. And there are enough monocolored decks in the format, or virtually monocolored decks in the format, that if you drop this in play early, you'll either get the concession or you'll get the look of utter dread and foreboding on their face, and that's good enough.
Right. And then, of course, we see a tropical island here.
Yep.
We have some more green lands lurking over here to Bayou.
Yep.
You mentioned that you actually, when you are going to be on the play after sideboarding, you actually have to board out the Gemstone Caverns.
Yeah, it's a wasteland that never ever wastes the land in that sense.
All right.
And that's fine. I'm the power of Abrupt Decay, having played it the entire year, is unquestionable, and I'm cool with devoting 7 slots to be able to play some Abrupt Decays.
Sure. And then the last sideboard card, 1 Coffin Purge, another Entombable.
Yep. It lets you, obviously toss it in the graveyard, answer, if we unfortunately have to play the mirror. It's also good against Dredge, which I would not be surprised to see show up here. I think it's one of those decks that can kind of, get some people. It was really just a card that just kind of tied together the sideboard and make sure we didn't leave any specific area completely exposed.
Okay. And it's a little bit of insurance in your pocket in case you actually play the Gemstone Cavern Reanimator mirror match, right?
Yeah, if it happens. We're hoping it does it until deep on Sunday. But
that's a real thing that's out there.
We're definitely going to get to battle to see who gets the Coffin Purge first.
For sure. All right, well, thanks for coming in and walking us through it.
No problem.
Stick around. We've got plenty more coverage coming of the Players' Championship here in Roanoke.